the Institute of Technology, Mara. Okay, currently have been teaching for 25 years, and I have been teaching most of the subjects I have taught actually is ACCA, CAT, CIMA, and CBA. So you can see from the screen that those are the subjects that I've taught before, and my focus is always the professionals, though I do teach undergraduates and masters and PhD students too. Okay, the purpose of this particular webinar is actually preparing you for exam. And in preparing you for the exam, okay, it is important for you to have a mindset for SBL exam. So it's basically setting your mindset for SBL exam. To recap your SBL technical knowledge, I won't be going through in detail, just to recap what you have learned, certain basic concepts that you have already learned before, all right? And then hopefully it will equip you with necessary exam skills, techniques, and hopefully for you to actually pass your SBL exam for June 2019. Today, for the day one, I'll be covering with you overview of SBL mindset, importance of EPSM, okay, ethics professional skills module, all right? And then I'll be covering with you on effective leadership, optimizing strategic decisions, which covers the SBL syllabus of part A, B, and C. And just to inform you that my reference is basically using BPP. Day two, I'll be going through the specimen one. I wrote here topical is because, after going through your effective leadership and then optimizing your strategic decisions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this specimen number one, going through your requirements to see out of the requirements that's being given in the specimen one for you to identify which particular topic that is actually being tested, whether you are able to actually identify whether those questions requirements are from effective leadership or optimizing strategic decisions. This is crucial because only then that you will know the technical knowledge that is actually being applied so that you'll be able to answer those particular questions. And same goes to on the day two, I will also be going through the specimen 3, all right? So just topical, just to identify the syllabus area, okay, whether you are able to identify which particular requirement of the questions are actually testing on effective leadership and which one will be testing the optimizing strategic decision. And after that, I'll be going through with you assessing and managing risk and ethical issues, a continuation of your SBL syllabus. This will be part D, all right, in day 2. And then day 3, I'll be continuing with your parts of the syllabus on EFGH, that is evaluating, enabling strategic change, implementing strategic change. Once I've done with that, I'll continue with specimen number 1 on the topical. We'll be going back again to those particular questions and specimen 3 to identify the syllabus area, whether you can identify the requirements of the question, whether they do fall into these particular topics that we have already gone through. So the idea is, like I mentioned earlier, is for you to understand which syllabus area so that you can think of what would be the technical knowledge that you will be applying to that particular specific question. In day 4, I'll be going through with you professional skills, that is your syllabus I under your SBL, and then exam techniques. And at the same time as well, I'll be going through with you examiner's report for March 2019 exam and lesson learned from that particular examiner's report. And day 5, I'll be going through with you the question demo, December 2018. Let's see what we are going to have today. First thing is, the most important is for us to know what EPSM is, all right? And then I'm going to cover with you the overview of SBL, and then the SBL mindset. And then I'm going to go through with you as well SBL technical knowledge on effective leadership, optimizing strategic decisions. Why I'm highlighting this ethics and professional skill modules is that, okay, if you were to see in your ACCA website that they are emphasizing on, okay, this particular new module for EPSM, and hopefully with this particular EPSM module, all right, it would actually help to increase your employability. All right, this is one of the 3 key requirements towards ACCA membership. Definitely, I think you can read from the slides how important it is. But what is more important here is that, okay, the module that they have in the ethics and professional skill module is actually, okay, modules that can actually help you to do better in your SBL. And that's the reason why, okay, I'm highlighting this EPSM skills module. I'm not going to go through in detail what it is under strategy professional exam success, but basically, all right, that particular module will help you to pass your SBL, because in that particular module, all right, for the EPSM syllabus, okay, there are 10 areas that basically will be covered, but basically unit number 10 is actually a case study that you have to undergo, all right. But you'll have the modules that actually covered on ethics and professionalism, personal effectiveness, innovation and skepticism, commercial awareness, leadership and team working, communication, interpersonal skills, data analytics, case and a case study for you to go through, all right, and answer them, strategic professional support, and at the end, you'll have a end of module assessment that is the case study. What's the purpose? Basically, for those students who have already actually undertaken ACCA from CAT, definitely you have studied your FAB, and those who have studied or came from a degree route or diploma route, basically you have studied your management paper, all right? So this is indirectly is to bridge actually from those particular earlier papers that you have and going towards your strategic business leader, is to bridge the gap in terms of the technical knowledge that is actually required for you to actually pursue your strategic business leadership. Because basically most papers, right, when you look into the programs of ACCA, you will go through like fundamentals and then you go into your professional level. All right, most of the subjects that you have at the professional level, you have undergone it in your fundamental level. And the only thing that you might not have gone through will be, yes, you do have FAB, but FAB is basically covered in your CAT as well. But some may cover it under the fundamental, started in fundamental, but it's not enough to bridge that particular gap of the technical knowledge that is actually required to do SBL. If you ask me personally, SBL is getting rather challenging. So you require to have an understanding of this particular subject matter very well, all right? So you need that particular foundation to be able to actually understand SBL well. Looking at the SBL mindsets, I'll be going through with you the thinking process, synthesizing, all right, role, audience, task, professional skills, and application. The thinking process. If you were to look at this particular slides that I have, I've already put some notes here, all right, just an example for you to see how these particular chapters in the syllabus that you have are related to one another, and the way that you think and the way that you actually study it is not studying it in isolation, right? You must always think that how each and every of those particular chapters or each and every of those particular activities, how is it related to another, right? So basically, these are some of the examples that you have. If you're looking at the leadership, all right, you may want to know how is leadership related to culture, for example, because here, like I put here, okay, a good leader will set a good example. All right, indirectly they will actually become an example to the employees, and employees will actually follow whatever that they do, and based indirectly, okay, as a leader, for example, if they come to work early, employees will definitely will come to work early, and it becomes part of the culture. Once you set up a good culture, it is easier for you to actually direct your employees to move towards the direction that you want. But if you are not able to actually mold them to the culture that is needed to move towards the direction of the company, then it's not going to be that easy for you to move towards that particular strategic direction. And if, let's say, you're looking into ethical issues and reputational issues, basically, there's always a relationship between both of these. All right. If you do good things, definitely people will actually, praise you, and you'll have that particular good image. Similarly to an organization, if, let's say, they do illegal activities or unethical activities, definitely it will damage their reputation. And indirectly, once their reputation are damaged, they won't be able to actually pursue with their strategic direction. Why? People don't trust them anymore. All right. When internal control, why internal control can have impact on strategy? Basically, okay, if you look at this particular relationship, if you have a weak internal control, it will lead to losing resources. For example, okay, if you don't have a proper internal control to protect people from actually using your cash, for example, your petty cash, okay, you don't have anyone that actually to guard that particular petty cash. If it's just you leave it to anyone to just take care of it, nobody actually protects it. Anyone can just come in and get that particular cash of yours. Indirectly, you will lose that particular money, and end up you will not be able to use the money for whatever intentions that you wanted to use it for. Same goes to this particular strategy. So if you have a weak internal control system, okay, definitely it lead to losing of resources. When you lose resources, it means that you will not be able to execute your strategy. Okay. So governance and strategy, basically, if you are looking to governance, think of board of directors. Okay, they're part of the governance, and they are supposed to perform their duty on behalf of the stakeholders to ensure organization has clear vision, right, and mission. Okay, if, let's say, the organization has clear vision and mission, the organization will be able to execute the strategy and become sustainable. Why? Because indirectly having good governance will be able to avoid, okay, people from having conflict of interest, especially between the agents. All right, under your agency theory. How IT help in implementing strategy? So if, let's say, your strategy is to enhance your customer relationship management so that you are able to get loyal customers. So if you have loyal customers, definitely you'll be able to move towards the direction that you want with enough of funds and resources. So indirectly, in order for you to enhance your customer relationship management, IT can help you in executing that strategy more effectively and efficiently by having a database for customers. So at least you know who are your returning customers, okay, who are your new customers, all right? So in that sense, you'll be able to develop a good mechanism for you to actually enhance your relationship with your customer and making sure that they continue to be loyal with you, all right? Okay. The next part is synthesizing in SBL. So what is synthesizing in SBL? What you need to have is that your ability, the skills that you need to have when you do your SBL is your ability to integrate knowledge with logical reasoning and apply it in context. All right, you have already had at the back of your head, I think all of you have done your revision. It's about 1 month for due to exam. So you have that particular knowledge on your syllabus areas, all right? So what you need to do is you need to weave these particular points together and make sense out of it. And by you able to integrate your knowledge, your logical reasoning, sometimes you do need to use some logical sense, okay, to actually answer the question and apply it to the case, that means in context, which requires you to understand the task assigned to you. And that's where you need to know your audience, action to be taken using the question verbs and the professional skills as the means. So this need to be incorporated. Once you are able to actually look at this together, how it would help you to actually answer the question, all right, you will be able to pass your exam. Synthesizing is like putting pieces together, all right? Let's say if you see all these particular triangles, okay, they are all in pieces. So SBL is talking about putting them together so that you'll be able to actually understand and answer your examination question. Some of you may be familiar with some of the slides, contain the slides, and some are actually additional, okay, based on the request by ACCA to have more of the technical knowledge this time around. But I will still go through with you that, okay, the importance of role. Okay, why is it so important? Because role is actually to understand who you are in the workplace. Whether you're a financial controller, management accountant, internal auditor, business consultant, CEO, you may be junior executive. All right. So if, let's say, you know your role, you will know the output you are producing. So it would be easier for you to perform your task if you know what are the kind of output that is required out of you. All right. This actually helps. Another one that needs to be understood is the task. So basically, you have some practical tasks. You are preparing your reports. Sometimes you are asked to draft a section of the report. Sometimes you are asked to prepare slides for the presentation and supporting notes, and prepare information to put inside the slides together with the notes. You are sometimes asked to draft a memo or briefing notes. All right. Bear in mind, in performing this particular task, okay, it's part of writing. Answering question is part of writing. And when we are talking about writing, you must always keep your audience in mind. And at the same time, okay, the requirement of the question in mind as well. Because in exam, you are supposed to be answering the requirement of the exam and not to answer what you know. Always remember that. You are also required to demonstrate your professional skills. This is where these particular 5 professional skills are actually being tested. All right. So you have analysis skills which require you to then demonstrate the element of investigation, inquiry, and consider. And then evaluation skills requires you to actually assess, estimate, and appraise. Commercial acumen skills require you to demonstrate awareness, use judgment, and show insight. Communication skills require you to inform, persuade, and clarify. Skepticism skills require you to probe, question, and challenge. I will cover this particular professional skills in detail when we go into the exam techniques. Okay, let's look at this particular syllabus coverage. This is the syllabus coverage, okay, that you can find in the ACCA website. Basically, it's more structured in the sense that you have leadership here, governance, you have strategy, and then you have your risk. Okay, however, it shows here the 2 arrows are related, okay, interconnected. All right, that's why they have the arrows up and down here. Same goes to your strategy and your risk together with other areas. that is technology and data analytics, organization control and audit, and your finance and planning, and decision making, and innovation, performance excellence, and change management. And if you notice by the side here, okay, in understanding and demonstrating your understanding of the technical knowledge, you are also required to demonstrate the professional skills as well. I would rather you to think it this way, where, all right, instead of a structured one like this, you need to be able to actually connect each and every of those particular syllabus area together. All right. If you're talking about leadership, leadership is connected to governance. Leadership is also connected to innovation, performance excellence, and change management. And really, leadership also is connected to risk. All right. Because why? Because a leader who is able to actually develop a strategy will eventually embed risk inside its strategic direction. All right. So you will also find that other areas are all interconnected. They are related. You can't look at it in isolation at all. You need to actually all the time keep on critically look at it and analyze it so that you'll be able to see the relationship. Once you're able to see the relationship, it's easier for you to look at that particular technical knowledge, which particular syllabus areas are being combined, okay, in the requirement of the questions. Like I mentioned to you, my source is actually from BPP. This is the SBL technical knowledge. Okay, I will be covering under this particular SBL technical knowledge. It will be divided into 5 areas, whereby your SBL syllabus, okay, and the ACCA websites that are being covered under part A, B, and C will be under effective leadership and optimizing strategic decisions. And then your syllabus under part D, E, F, G, H will be under assessing and managing risk and ethical issues, evaluating and enabling strategic change, implementing strategic change. So remember, our focus is actually strategy, long-term direction. Okay, if you're talking about just a long-term direction, it won't work. Okay, because strategy cannot work alone. Why? Strategy needs to be developed, supported, and executed. So to do this, it requires someone to do that. Definitely, it will be a person, happens to be a leader. All right, and then how you need a medium. Okay, these are why do you need a medium? Medium is to help support and execute your strategy. That's where you need tools, techniques, and mechanism, right? So that's why you see that. That's why when you talk about tools, techniques, and mechanism, that's why you see that there's IT, all right? There's big data. So basically, these are the mediums, all right, to help you to move towards your long-term direction for you to be able to execute your strategy. So to formulate your strategy, okay, is a long-term direction, means now moving into the future. All right. So in doing so, you need to ask yourself, what do you have now? Do I still want to retain what I have? Is it still relevant, or do I still need it? If yes, how do I do that? If no, what do I do next? How do I do it? What do I need? Would it work? What if it does not? What should I expect? And is there any unexpected outcome? How do I prepare for the expected and the unexpected outcome? So basically, these are the kind of questions that you keep on asking yourself when it comes to formulating a strategy. Syllabus ABC that you have just now, okay, under leadership, this is basically what you'll be covering. Qualities of leadership, leadership and organizational culture, professionalism, ethical codes, and public interest. So under governance, This is what you will actually be covering. All right, agency, stakeholder analysis, governance scope and approaches, reporting to stakeholders, board of directors, public sector governance. And under strategy, basically concept strategy, these environmental issues, competitive forces, internal sources, capabilities and competences of an organization, and strategic choices. So the approach that I'm going to use tonight will be, all right, an integration approach, whereby this particular syllabus ABC under your leadership, governance and strategy will actually be covered under effective leadership and then optimizing your strategic decisions. So what do I have under effective leadership? Basically, you have strategy, leadership and culture. And then you have stakeholders and social responsibility. And then you have impact of corporate governance on strategy. Leadership. Basically, okay, you need to know the leadership role and then the approach. Why is it so important that you need to know this particular leadership role and the leadership approach? All right. So as you see there, what I have already wrote there, okay. So as a leader, all right, you should actually play a role to make sure that you are able to bring together with you the employees in your organization so that they will follow you to move towards the direction that you want. All right. So in order for you to actually ensure that you are able to bring them together with you towards the direction that you want, you need to have an approach to do that. All right. So an approach where your employees would actually listen to you and follow your direction or follow your instruction. So you wouldn't want them to actually hate you for that. So that's the reason why you need to have a good approach with them. That's where you require a good leadership qualities and skill so that you'll be able to actually make your employees follow you. All right. So if you were to read any case, right, inside your questions where you find that the leader that you have inside that particular case study actually dictates the employees, making them do this and that, and without giving them any, good benefit in return. So basically, people inside that particular organization wouldn't like those kind of leader. And once they start to reject that particular leader, definitely whatever the leader tries to actually implement will not be able to be executed because employees don't like them and wouldn't want to support him or her. All right. So basically, that's the reason why you need to know the leadership role and the leadership approach. So in this particular relationship, all right, you have here like all this strategy, leadership and culture, all these stakeholders and social responsibility and impact. There are two questions that you need to actually ask yourself. Okay, why effective leadership is crucial or significant or important in this relationship, and how this relationship would contribute to effective leadership. All right, these are the kind of questions that you need to ask so that you'll be able to see the linkages between one particular area to another area. When I say how this relationship would contribute, okay, when I ask this question, how this relationship, okay, would contribute to effective leadership, that means the relationship between three main parts just now. So it means that leaders who know the importance of good governance, they are able to practice it. Once they are able to practice it indirectly, it will actually lead to a better management system. Leaders who have skills in formulating a strategy are able to formulate a suitable, acceptable, and feasible strategy. That means a strategy that can be executed, a strategy that makes sense to the organizations. Leaders who know the importance of having positive culture may instill it among its employees. So it means that if you are showing a good example to your staff, inculcating a good and positive culture, okay, your employees will definitely will follow that particular culture. And having a good culture is important because why? Okay, only a good culture can drive a good strategy. All right, so it is so important that a leader who knows how to actually mold a good culture in the organization will be actually able to make the workers or the employees in the organization to actually work towards the directions that he or she wants as well. Leaders who have skills to analyze stakeholders' interests and needs of society are able to satisfy them. That means you understand what they want. You wouldn't do anything, okay, as a leader, you wouldn't make a decision that can actually harm them. All right. So if you understand their needs, definitely you will try your best to actually satisfy their needs. Leaders who know which leadership approach to be acquired and practice are able to lead effectively. So basically, if you know which approach is good, and if you ask me frankly, all right, there's no point of shouting to your staff, things like that. So it's good to have a proper way of communicating with your staff so that having a good approach and a good relationship with your staff will definitely make them follow you. Why effective leadership is crucial or significant or important in this relationship? Okay. Because only with effective leadership that it will ensure strategies formulated are able to be executed to achieve organizational goals. Okay, and only then they are able to ensure that good governance practices are adopted and no violation to good practices takes place. Okay, and always remember, leaders lead by an example, so they are the role model for high ethical standards. So you need to be a leader who is actually trustworthy so that your employees will also be people that is also honest and trustworthy as well. So it is so important that you set an appropriate tone from the top. All right. So this is the role of, why is it so important that you need to have an effective leadership. And when it comes to effective leadership, they are able to ensure that CSR approach taken by organizations provide benefit to society in general rather than only to specific stakeholders. So these are some of the examples why effective leadership is crucial or significant, in this particular relationship. So basically, under the strategy, we will look into the, as you know, strategy is actually long-term direction, and the strategy can be divided into 3 levels. All right, and a strategy can actually be translated into action by putting it as a mission statement. Okay, so if let's say it's not being translated into a mission statement, then there will no action to be taken to actually moving towards that particular direction. So as we know that strategy is a long-term direction, so long-term means what? It's your long-term objective, maybe in another 5 years, 10 years time, or 20 years time. So it's very difficult for you to actually look into whether you have already achieved what you are hoping for. So in that sense, because strategy is a long-term direction, it's too long. So in order for you to know whether you are moving towards that direction or not, it's good that you are able to cascade it down into objectives, whereby you will be able to see whether your direction towards your long-term goals just now is actually taking place. So in cascading it down into objectives, all right, you need to actually make sure that your objective is actually specific, measurable, achievable, results or focused, and time related. Why is it so important? So that you are able to see whether, yeah, let's say if your long-term objective is like 10 years, okay, your direction is like looking into something that's in 10 years time, at least you can see that, okay, by next year, what is it that I've already achieved, okay, and the following another year, what is it that I've already achieved, and are my achievements actually leading me towards that particular 10 years direction of mine? So that's why you are putting it into a shorter term, a medium term, and longer term. All right. Levels of strategy, you have 3 levels. All right. Corporate, business level, and operational level. And indirectly, what I say, okay, what makes this particular corporate level strategy successful is to have strategic values. It underpins the successful and sustainable business. So that's the reason why for you it's good to have that, okay, why you need to have ethics in business, why you may want to have corporate social responsibility. It's about giving, all right, back to the society. And then that's why you are talking about the importance of corporate governance, making sure that, okay, whatever resources that you are entrusted to are actually being managed well, all right? Because this particular strategic values is the one that underpins the successful and the sustainable of your business, all right? To ensure that all these particular strategies that you have can be executed. Always bear in mind, okay, no resources means you wouldn't be able to actually execute your strategy. So regardless whatever level of strategies that you have, in order for you to actually execute it, you need to have resources. And to make sure that your resources are well taken care of, okay, you need to have these particular strategic values in place. Okay, as I mentioned just now, all right, strategy remains a strategy unless it is translated into action, which can actually be spelled out in your mission statement. Indirectly, this particular mission statement will actually lead to your strategic management process, where you need to strategize, okay, need to do your strategic positioning, need to go look for your, come up with your strategic choices, and then execute your strategy, okay, or implement your strategy. That's strategic action. Okay, in doing so, all right, culture plays an important role as well. All right, why? Because culture actually shapes how, okay, culture actually shapes how an organization operates. All right, so basically, when it comes to culture, it's the way you do things every day in your organization. All right, that is considered as a culture. It's a work. What's important is to set a good workplace culture, so that with the, if you still remember the shared values that we have just now from this particular previous, okay, these are the strategic values. Okay, basically, if you have good values, all right, it's good to incorporate these particular good values as part of your work culture. And if you're talking about culture, just bear in mind, I know that I've written here, there's a culture web, things like that. But for your exam purposes, all right, it's good that you understand the basic meaning of what culture is, and so that you'll be able to work it out using your logical sense to actually answer the questions. Okay, as long as you understand the concept of the culture, so it's easier for you to actually map out what you know about culture in the context of the case, right? So here, pattern of shared basic assumptions is basically, okay, the beliefs that you have, okay, the assumptions, the values, and the ways that you interact that contribute to a unique social and psychological environment of an organization. For example, all right, if let's say your organization is used to, like, you know, having the casual communication between you and your staff, there's not much of formal communication there, you feel that it's comfortable to have, you know, informal communication rather than a formal communication among your peers. Perhaps that's part of the culture, and you can actually mingle around with your junior staff and your senior staff together. But when it comes to serious work, that's where you can actually pay attention to the work that you are doing. All right. So if that's the kind of culture that you have in organization, and if it works, then that will be a culture that you can continue to actually embrace. All right. And in certain places, okay, you find that people are so strict with rules and regulation that they have to come in by 8 and they have to go out. Okay, the earliest is 5 o'clock in the evening. That's where you find that people clocking in at 8 and clocking out at 5 or after 5. All right, and then you'll find that there are certain places whereby you have to address someone with sir or madam, things like that. So it's kind of so official that is not the kind that you can actually, you know, just simply treat someone like a friend. Then it wouldn't be a culture that can help you to actually execute your strategy well, because most of the time, okay, people like to have a mix of between a slightly, like, you know, you do need rules and regulations, but at the same time you need some moment whereby you are able to interact freely with other stuff. All right, so in this sense, all right, that's where you should be able to actually come up with a better way of doing things in your organization. Even though I put here there are cultural web here, I wouldn't want you all to actually, it may help you to understand the culture of an organization, right? But it's good if you can actually understand the shared basic assumption, so that you can actually use your logical sense to actually answer the question if, let's say, you are asked to evaluate the culture of the organization. All right, as long as you know it's the way people do things, okay, what they like most in the organization, what they don't do, things like that, the routines that they have, okay, this is basically what a culture is all about. Is there, okay, so far, is there any question? If you have any question, you can just actually post it here. But okay, I will let you know about the WhatsApp group for the discussion, right? Because someone's actually asking about the WhatsApp for the discussion. All right, I'll leave you the number later. Another part that is also important is the principles and agents in governance. Okay, basically what you can understand, what is principles and agents in governance is about, okay, when there's a one person that is, okay, an arrangement which one entity legally appoints another person to act on its behalf. So basically, like, okay, someone is asking someone else to do something on his or her behalf. Okay, this is what principals and agents is actually in governance, when one person, an agent, is allowed to make decisions on behalf of another person. That's the principle. So this actually stems from the agency theory, okay, whereby in this particular theory, okay, it explains the relationship between a principal and an agent. So in the context of an organization, usually the shareholders are actually the principal, and then the board of directors are actually the agents who act on their behalf to oversee how the organization is actually being managed by the CEO. Even if, all right, the principal has already appointed an agent to perform something on his behalf, okay, remember we are human, okay, sometimes initially perhaps maybe we are able to fulfill the needs of that particular principal, but eventually later, okay, as a human being, some may be influenced by self-interest perhaps, or may have different goals that is not the same as the principal's goals. And that's where, okay, usually it will give rise to some conflict or issues between an agent and principal. All right. So that one we call it as an agency problem. Stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Okay, basically the stakeholders, okay, are anyone that can affect or be affected by the organization actions, objectives, and policies. For example, employees, directors, creditors, owners, and suppliers. Okay, basically when it comes to stakeholders, stakeholders actually can be divided into several types of stakeholders. Some are economic stakeholders. You're talking about, okay, economic stakeholders are your creditors, suppliers, things like that. Okay, social or political stakeholders. Okay, and then this is where we are talking about the regulators, okay, the governments, things like that. Okay, technological stakeholders, some ones that are related to the technology that you use. Some are community stakeholders, the societies. Some are the internal stakeholders, that means people within your organizations, all right, the employees or the management. So another thing that you need to know about the stakeholder is the power and interest. Why is it so important for you to know about the power and the interest? Because some of the stakeholders can actually exert power on your organization because they have high interest on your organizations. All right. So that's the reason why they may exert power on your organization because of the interest that they have. For example, like the shareholders. Okay, your shareholders definitely will exert their power because they have high interest in your organization, because they expect that when they invest in the organization, okay, they expect the organization to perform well and are able to give them the returns. So that's the reason why, okay, they can actually exert power on the organizations. All right. And if you are asking me the employees, yes, they do they have power? They may not have much power, but they do have the interest in the organization as well. Why? Because they would definitely would want the organization to perform, because they would definitely want some return as well in the form of having their salary paid every month, not that they pay this month and next month they don't pay you. All right. So let me just stop for a while and see whether there's questions from the question panel. All right. So some are question whether any question for today practice, not today, perhaps tomorrow. All right. Okay, some of you asked about the cultural web. Yes, okay. You do have this particular 7 elements in the cultural web. Okay. If you are asked to evaluate the culture of the organization and you decided to use the cultural web, okay, that would using that particular model is just to help you structure your mind in the sense that what should you write first about the culture in that particular organization. Okay, it's just to structure your answer. All right. So basically, it will only get marks if you are able to tie it up to the context of the case. So for example, if you're talking about routines and rituals, okay, routines is how they do things every day. So you need to look into the case, whether, all right, that particular what are the things that they practice every day. So you may want to say that, okay, in case study, in organization A, they actually come to work early in the morning, all right, where they have to actually meet at a certain places first, or whatever it is that is in the case, all right, or they may have to clock in at 8 o'clock, things like that. So you need to look at those elements that represents the routines. Okay, only then you'll get marks. But if you just mention about routines is, you know, the way that they do things every day, that's all, you are not going to get marks at all. All right, so you need to actually tie it to the case. That means the example of that particular routine should be from the case study. Same goes to the rituals. What is it that they do? Okay, for example, like, you know, maybe they have like every once in a month that they have like birthday celebrations, okay, to celebrate, okay, the staff having birthdays. So those are actually the practice that they have on a monthly basis. So basically that's the ritual. So you need to give the example of that ritual, okay, from the case. What is it that they do? If you don't have that example coming from the case, then you will not be able to get the marks. I hope that answers your question. What do you mean my voice? I hope you can hear my voice. All right. Homework, well, I'll see what I can do to give you some homework. But basically, most of the homeworks that I actually give, okay, I will actually have the follow-up, okay, in the WhatsApp group. There's a question here, if the employees are trade union members, would they have power? Yeah, they have power the trade union itself have power, okay? Why? Because as a group, okay, the employee who is actually the member, okay, are going to actually, the power is not as an individual, but as a trade union members, okay, under the trade union itself, you have that particular power, all right? Do we need to explain what the organization trying to achieve with the cultural web? Are you trying to ask, do we need to explain what the organization trying to achieve with the cultural web? Okay, the purpose of cultural web is actually for you to explain, okay, the scenario of the culture in an organization and the relationship of this particular cultural web with the organization is that, okay, if you are able to explain and understand the culture of an organization, then you'll be able to understand why perhaps some of the strategy that they make are successful and why some are not successful. All right. So that's the purpose of the cultural web is actually for you to analyze the culture of an organization, to see how they actually, to see how the work culture is. Because work culture is very crucial in the sense that, okay, if you have a good work culture, indirectly it will drive the organization towards the direction that they want. And if the organization do not have a good work culture among the staff, that will actually dampen your journey towards the direction that you want. So basically, cultural web is for you to understand the culture. All right. I hope that answers your question. Okay. Some are asking about paradigm. Paradigm is actually the from that particular 6 elements that you have, and at the end, okay, you are going to conclude the type of culture that the organization is practicing. All right. So if you're talking about a paradigm, it's a conclusion from that 6 elements that you have just now. Okay. For example, all right, you have your stories, you have your routines. All right. For example, routines that you see, okay, they come in at 8, they go back at 5, and then they are not supposed to be actually communicating with each other, except for they have to address each and one another, sir or madam, things like that. So it's kind of formal. So, and then whatever that they do, they are not allowed to actually, you know, voice their opinions. They are just waiting for instructions. So what conclusion can you make out of that? All right. So basically, you can see that that kind of environment is leading to you to a culture that is kind of autocratic. All right. So that is actually the autocratic style of work culture is the paradigm of that particular organization. I hope that answers your question. How about conflict of interest occurs between stakeholder? Okay. Let's say, okay, for example, let me just give an example of, okay, you're talking about how conflict of interest occurs between stakeholders. So if let's say you have a customer who actually wants you to provide them with high quality of products at a cheaper price. Okay, so that's one of your stakeholder. Customer is one of your stakeholder. Basically, they want you to provide, okay, a high quality products at a cheaper price. Your supply, definitely you have to actually make that particular product by having a good quality of materials at a cheaper price. So if you're not able to get it at a cheaper price, you will not be able to produce that particular high quality of products and sell it at a cheaper price. But would your supplier, another stakeholder, okay, want to actually supply you a good quality of products with a lower price? If they find that it's not worth for them to actually sell it to you at a lower price, if let's say someone else can actually agree with the high price that they are putting, then definitely you will not be able to get a high quality raw materials with a low price. That's where, okay, the demand of that particular supplier just now for a price is contradicting with the requirement, the needs of the customer that wants it at a lower price. Okay. Okay, some of you were asking that I'm using more of organization than the company. Always remember, company is an organization. All right. Okay, company is an organization. Why organization? Because under SBL, okay, it can be a private limited company, it can be a public company, it can be a non-profit organization. They are all organizations. So SBL is applied to all these type of organizations. So don't be surprised that in your case study, all right, in your exam in June 2019, you might not get a public limited company, or you might not get a private company, a limited company, or you may get what? You may get a corporation, all right, or you may get a non-profit organization, or you may get a charity organization. They are all organizations, and they are all, okay, subject to a strategy. All right, that's the reason why I use organization. Forgot. Wa alaikumussalam. You're giving me the salam here. All right. All right, for those of you who are already in the WhatsApp group, okay, I'll be sending you the slides later. Can trade union be classified under the prior group? Yes. Do you need to define the story or underculture before you actually, okay, if you want to actually define, you have to directly relate it to the case. Definition on the story and the cultural, if this, you just put a general definition of your technical knowledge, you will not get any marks. So some of you were asking, actually, I'm under Mandela, all right. Okay, if possible, all right, my advice is that, okay, try your best to actually be a little bit loose or relaxed, not to be too much tied up with the models, all right, because when it comes to, you know, tying yourself up to the models, it'll be a little bit rigid in identifying this particular power and in interest. I know it helps sometimes, but one thing that you do say that this is because I do have issue to correctly identify the stakeholders who have significant power and interest. Okay, so people who will actually have a high power and high interest, okay, are the people who can actually stops you from business. Definitely, these people have got high power, all right? And if they have high interest, you always remember these people, okay, the kind of influence that they have is actually they are able to stop you from your operation. So these are the people with a high power and high interest. A vision is your, okay, a strategy is actually being, you know, translated into a vision. All right. So once you have translated into a vision, all right, it becomes, you can actually cascade it down into a mission and then objective. All right. Vision is actually a translation of your strategy. I think most of other, okay, what? Okay, hold on, how to, for the exam question for governance, okay, I will show you to you once we are done with this, okay, I will go into the specimen one and show you, okay, which one. Okay, so I'm just here to say hi, all right. Okay. I'll get back to you. Some asking me the difference between strategic as well as corporate in Mandela power and influence. This one I need to get back to you. Hold on, because I did requires further explanation. Hold on, because some of your questions, all right, what I will do is that we'll discuss further in the WhatsApp group, because some of the areas need to be actually covered in our day one tonight, and then definitely that the time 3 hours is not enough for me to cover most of the things that I'm supposed to cover tonight. So whatever further questions that you need to ask, okay, I may answer it inside the WhatsApp group. I'll give you the number. Hold on. How about people that has high interest, low in power? How can it affect an organization? It can't affect the organization much because you only have the interest, but you don't have any power. All right. Okay, like I mentioned to you, okay, this particular webinar is actually focusing on the overview of the technical knowledge. I'm not going to cover, this is not a class, this is just a revision class, so I'll just cover with you an overview of the areas, all right? So if you need further explanation, then that one we will do it in the WhatsApp group if you require that. Okay. Since most of you are asking on the group, hold on, okay. Let me just write this down. All right, this is my number. You can see it from here. All right. Oh dear. Okay, please, before you, okay, if you request me to add you to the particular WhatsApp group, please introduce yourself first. Okay, at least I know that you are from this particular webinar. All right. Okay, so take that particular number before I erase it. Okay, let's continue. Okay. What we have is that, okay, the next part here is actually the corporate social responsibility. This is just an overview. I'm not going to actually touch your technical knowledge in detail, yeah? All right? Because I assume that you have done your revision, so that's the reason why that you are listening to this. So if, let's say, you are expecting more than that, I don't think so I'm able to actually provide you with that tonight, because this is basically just an overview, okay, so that you'll be able to actually, you know, have a glimpse on what SBL is all about, because the detailed knowledge, you should have already gone through that earlier. Okay, let's have a look at the corporate social responsibility. So when it comes to corporate social responsibility, how is it tied up with a corporate governance? Is that, okay, because one of the action that is considered as an ethical actions in having a good corporate governance is corporate social responsibility. That means it is actually giving out, okay, is giving back to the society. Organizations that have already performed well, all right, and then they have additional resources, for example, right, like they have extra, it's easier to say they have extra money and they want to use this particular money to give back to the society, and that's the reason why they think that, okay, corporate social responsibility as an action that is considered as ethical for them to actually give that particular money to the society. So it can be performed in many ways. Some people give money directly, some people actually give, you know, build up schools, some people build bridges, things like that, actually to contribute to the society, all right? So some sponsors, you know, scholarships. So this is basically one of the corporate social responsibility activities. And what is important is that, okay, basically we are talking about CSR here under Carroll, or ethical stances under Johnson Scholes, and CSR viewpoints under Gray, Owen, and Adam. Basically, they are talking about the type of corporate social responsibility and why people perform corporate social responsibility. And basically, some people perform corporate social responsibility because they genuinely want to help people. It's philanthropic, you know. So it's not something that they want they don't want anything else in return except for just to give to the society. But remember, there are some people who perform something because they want something in return. For example, they want to have a good reputation. All right, that's why they do good things. So when they do good things, it will secure their future revenue. Why do I say that it secures their future revenues? For example, if potential customers were to look into their image, oh, this company is a good company, they do good things, so perhaps I'll support them by buying their things. All right, so that's basically what a corporate social responsibility, the reason why people do corporate social responsibility. But what's important is that, all right, you need to know what corporate citizenship is, right? What does it mean by corporate citizenship? It's basically, okay, a contribution that a business or organization makes to the local community, all right? So it's actually bringing more benefit than harm. Okay, that's the why people actually perform this particular corporate citizenship. They feel that it's their responsibility to actually contribute to the society, so that society will actually benefit from their prosperity. So indirectly, it actually gives back to the good deeds that they do, will actually creates a good image for them, and indirectly it will bring back more benefit to the company as well. Okay, not just that they're giving benefit to the society, but the benefits is also gotten back by them through that particular good image. All right, why? What kind of benefit? Definitely is future revenue. All right. So what is CSR 2.0? Basically, this is an extension of CSR 1.0, which people are having now. So the reason why people start voicing out to have the CSR 2.0 because they want it to be impactful. All right. That means if you say that you are helping the community, make sure that you are able to help that particular community throughout that you are in existence. That means it's not on a short-term period. It's not just for a certain purpose, but basically you are really helping them out to overcome the problem that the world is actually facing. For example, like hunger, poverty, things like that. So if, let's say, you are contributing to the society, make sure that the contribution are able to overcome this particular problem. That's actually the purpose of the CSR 2.0, which is based on creativity, scalability, responsiveness, locality, and circularity. All right. Okay, there's some more questions here. All right. Okay, basically most of you have not got the number. All right, where did I put my number just now? I can't remember where I put my number just now. All right. Yeah, let me just write it again. I hope you all got it. All right. Okay, this is my number. Some of you wants me to explain further on the corporate citizenship. So what is it basically? The social corporate citizenship is that, all right? It is actually, okay, is the responsibility of the organization, all right? That's what it's called as corporate, all right, of the organization as a citizen to actually provide benefit to the society and help to reduce harm to the society, right? So basically what corporate citizenship is trying to do, being a corporate citizen, is that, okay, if you find that, okay, the community, okay, requires some, for example, like a bridge, let's say, to cross from one particular village to another village, all right? So as a corporate citizen, you should actually be ready to contribute to that particular community to ensure that, okay, you are able to build up the bridge for them and ensure that they are able to cross from their village to another village. So it can be anything actually, or it can also be, all right, let's say certain communities are deprived from something, all right, and that's where you are as a corporate citizen trying to help them so that they will not be deprived from whatever thing that is there, all right. So it's like, you know, promoting citizens' rights. So basically that is actually part of the corporate citizenship. So you as an organization should actually uphold that as well. And then, for example, okay, making sure that organization provide a decent working conditions. So this is an example of providing more benefit than harm, all right? So as an organization, you should also uphold that by actually providing a decent working conditions, and whoever that are that have relationship with you, for example, your supplier, okay, you must also extend that to your supplier, making sure that the supplier that you are choosing, okay, are also, okay, providing decent working condition to their employees. All right, so basically that's what corporate citizenship is all about. Oops, 276990. What did I omit the 6? Oh dear. All right. So since you are from outside, since you are from outside Malaysia, so it's, thank you. Okay, it's not, you are talking about the CSR types. What is important is for you to understand what CSR is all about. All right, that's more crucial. Okay, because in a case study, they would ask you, or in a question, they wouldn't ask you to categorize. All right, they'll just ask you to actually look into what are the corporate social responsibility that they're having. So you may want to, if you are asked to evaluate, so just evaluate from your understanding what a corporate social responsibility is all about. So what you need to do is to demonstrate that understanding. All right, it's not to understand the type that you have, like under Owen, under Johnson Shoals. No. Okay. Okay, if you need to ask anything, you can just, you got my number already, right? Okay, so if you have anything that you want to ask, you may want to ask me directly. Fine. I'll try my best to actually assist you with the limited knowledge that I have. I will try my best to actually assist you. All right. Okay. Okay, another part is on sustainability. So organization definitely will be focusing on sustainability because, okay, we are talking about the future. And then sustainability is about what? It's about maintaining the resources that you have, making sure that these resources will continue to be there in the future. Okay, because some of the organization, especially when they directly use the natural resources, all right, so those particular natural resources might not be there anymore later in the future. So in that sense, okay, you might not be having that resources. The resource is not sustainable, all right, and then definitely the future generation will not be able to actually use that particular resources. But at the same time as well, it will also, your organization may also not sustaining. Okay, it will not be sustainable in the sense that if you don't know, if let's say your product uses that natural resources, and if that natural resources is no longer there, your business will no longer be there anymore. All right. So it's like it's two things together. So basically, you need to be able to make sure that in order for your business to sustain, the natural resources that you use for your business should also sustain. All right. And because of that particular reasons, there are various actions taken, all right, to ensure that, okay, organization pay attention to sustainability. And basically, okay, you may want to look into some kind of reporting or some kind of audit mechanism to ensure that whatever initiative that you have taken to ensure that your resources will still be there and you are able to sustain in your business and ensure the environmental sustainability as well. Okay, people have taken this initiative of having like social and environmental audits and integrated reporting, and at the same time looking into the environmental and social issues. Why do they look into all these social issues and environmental issues? Because it actually a way for you to actually look into how much impact that your business has already made on this particular environment, and how much impact that your company has made on the social factors as well. All right. So before you are able to actually report what you do and do audit, the first thing that you need to do is look at the environmental and social issues that are in place. For example, environmental footprint. What is it? What is an environmental footprint? Basically, it measures the impact that a particular business activities have on the environment, including its resources, environment, and pollution emission. Okay, how many trees that you have already cut down, for example, all right? How much pollutions that you have, to what extent the pollutions that you have made. Okay, for example, okay, the recent case in Malaysia, okay, where there's a pollution in one of the states, okay, in Johor, all right, where one of the companies actually disposed of the toxic waste in one of the rivers. And then what happened is that it polluted the environment. Most likely that particular toxic waste evaporates when it meets the water. Okay, it doesn't dilute in the water. So because that is just my assumptions, that evaporates, okay, in the air. That's the reason that about 2,000 people within that particular area were sick and was actually warded in the hospital. All right. So indirectly, whatever that you are producing, okay, if it's, let's say, it actually harm the environment, you need to measure the impact or to the extent on how much it actually harm the environment. It's very important for you to look into that particular footprint. But when it comes to social impact, all right, we are not talking about the environment anymore. We are talking about how it impacts the people around and the society. For example, all right, whether, okay, with the existence of your, let's say if you have a factory, and let's say if you shut down the factory, would it actually impact the people around you? Okay, perhaps they become what? They are not able to work. Okay, increase in unemployment. Okay, so this is basically a social footprint. So whatever activities that you have, it may have impact on people. For example, the products that you used, okay, or you produce. Let's say if it's a chemical products or medicinal products. So you need to know that how much it would actually impact the people. So this is basically a social footprint. And to ensure that organization continue to sustain, and then remember, as an organization, definitely you have stakeholders, right? All right. And one way for you to inform your stakeholders what you have done is actually through reporting. All right. And then one of the latest type of reporting is actually an integrated reporting. Okay. So basically, this particular integrated reporting takes into consideration sustainability in its reporting. Why? Because this particular integrated reporting is actually, okay, demonstrating the linkage between strategy, governance, and financial performance, and the social, environmental, and economic context within which this particular business operates. So basically it tells you, okay, that how the process in producing the product is performed, okay, what kind of resources that they actually use, and then this actually information is actually an information that they need to actually inform the stakeholders, so that the stakeholders will know, okay, how they actually manufacture these particular products, if they are using the resources, okay, what kind of resources that they are using, what is it that they have done to ensure that resources continue to sustain, okay. So these are the kind of things that they have to actually report inside this particular integrated reporting, on top of the strategy, the governance and financial performance that they have, which are tied up with the environment and economic as well, okay. So part of the, when I say that, okay, the things that they are focusing on, remember this integrated reporting is focusing on the process, not the products. That means the process in making that particular products. All right. So they are actually reporting by using these particular 6 capitals: financial, manufactured, human, intellectual, and natural. Another one is social. Supposed to be this is social here, right? Okay, so 6, supposed to be another one there, social capital. All right. So this particular capital is actually doesn't mean that you will in an organization that you will have all right. So some companies, they may have like a few out of this particular 6, but they are reporting this particular 6 capitals. Financial, that means where do you get it from and how do you utilize it, things like that. And when it comes to manufactured, okay, you're talking about the kind of resources that you use. Okay, these are the things that, okay, you need to actually report. It's the process. It's not actually the product. All right. And once you have done the reporting, so it's time for audit. So what's the purpose of an audit? Okay. So making sure that whatever that you have already reported, all right, whatever the social footprints that you have already addressed. So here is actually to see whether, okay, you have agreed with this particular suitable metrics or measure performance compared with the targets. Okay, this is more on the compliance. You have already mentioned that you do this, you do this, you do this. So in this particular social and environmental audits is actually to look into whether you do comply with what you have already mentioned just now. All right. So if you say this is how I, stop this particular leakage from happening or from emission of toxic waste, whatever it is. So these are my actions that I have taken. So let's say if you have already spelled that out, so the auditors will actually come in to make sure that you comply with what you have already mentioned just now. All right. So basically it's more on compliance. Okay. So any more questions? Let's see whether we have questions. The slide that I use is different from the slide that I share. Yes, the slide that I share with you, I did not put my notes there. So as you actually listen to this, that I already put the notes there, perhaps that's how you can actually learn, okay, I put in some additional that you have on your slides, and that's where you can learn, all right? So you want me to explain on integrated thinking? Okay, let me see. Okay, integrated thinking. When I say integrated thinking, is that, all right, if you're looking at one particular syllabus area, you are not supposed to be looking at that particular syllabus area in isolation. It means that if you're looking into leadership, it's not just about leadership. Leadership is actually related to many areas. All right. So leadership is actually related to strategy, like I mentioned to you. Okay. Strategy will not be formulated without a leader. So you need a leader there. And then leadership also is related to the strategic implementation, because without a good leader, you will not be able to implement or execute your strategy. So it's like, you know, looking at one particular syllabus area, you should also be thinking about how those syllabus area is actually related to another syllabus area. Okay. Let's say if it's a technical social media company, what perspective will determine their resources for sustainability and how they can actually maintain it? Okay, when we talk about resources, we're talking about social media, technology, we are talking about competencies, we are talking about human. All right. So human skills is actually basically social media. We are looking more towards the social impact or the social footprint. Okay, here rather than, I can't think of any environmental yet, but I can only look at the social footprint. Okay, if you can think of it, you can actually let me know. All right. So in this particular perspective, when we are talking about social impact, all right, all this particular technology or social media, Facebook or Google, all right, so you need people with these particular skills, competences, your resources will be human. And when it comes to human, all right, you must make sure that they continue to acquire knowledge so that they'll be able to actually contribute to this organization with the latest technology. Only then they'll be able to sustain in the business. All right. So I hope it's clear. Okay. Yes, I can share it with you later. Okay, in the WhatsApp group. All right. Okay. Okay, let us continue with this particular effective leadership. Okay, so basically, if you're asking, are you an effective leader? All right, if an effective leader should be able to set and share good culture. An effective leader should actually practice good governance. Okay, an effective leader should know, okay, shareholders' needs and able to satisfy them, and definitely it ensures strategies formulated are executed. All right. So effective leadership is the ability of a leader to execute and fulfill what is desired by his or her stakeholders in an ethical and reputable manner. So basically, this is what an effective leadership is. And if you see that from this particular effective leadership, okay, there are several areas that are being covered together. All right. You can see that there's strategy, leadership, and culture that are being covered together. You also see that the area of governance, and then you also see that there's an area of stakeholders and corporate social responsibilities, okay, which are tied up together to ensure that there is an effective leadership taking place. Okay. Let me take a sip of my drink first before I continue. All right, okay. Okay, the next part is actually optimizing strategic decisions. So under this particular optimizing strategic decisions, all right, it's actually covering the external environment, sorry for the spelling, strategic capability, competitive advantage and strategic choice. Okay, the same questions that you may need to ask, how this relationship would contribute to optimizing strategic decision, why optimizing strategic decision is crucial or significant or important in this relationship. Okay. How these relationships would contribute to optimizing strategic decisions. All right. So basically, in order for you to actually optimize strategic decisions, okay, you need to do strategic positioning. All right. So in order for you to do your strategic positioning, you need to know your external environment. And not just external environment, but also you need to know your internal environment. Why? Because both of these, okay, which is called as corporate appraisal, okay. Let me just write here. Okay, the purpose of this part of corporate appraisal is looking into your internal and external environment to see where you are at this particular point of time before you move towards the direction that you want. Okay, so basically with the talking about strategic positioning is the available resources that you have and with the external environments that are influencing you. Okay, you will be able to know your strategic position. Once you know your strategic position, okay, with what you have and what you don't, you'll be able to actually come up with some choices. All right, that means choices of a strategy. So it's some sort like, you know, coming up with something where you can actually it's like living within your means. So if you only have like, you know, $10, so you try to work out within that particular $10 to make sure that you still benefit out of that particular $10 that you have. So basically for an organization, right, if let's say that's the only resources that they have, okay, they need to come up with options or choices to execute their strategy within the constraint that they have just now. That is the limited resources that they have. And from those particular choices or options, okay, they are going to choose which they do strategic evaluation. And on then they will implement that particular strategy. So basically, okay, this is actually how the relationship between what you have here, okay, and between the external environment, strategic capability, competitive advantage, strategic choice actually are related in optimizing your strategic decisions. Why optimizing strategic decision is crucial or significant or important in this relationship? Okay, always remember, because success of a certain strategy can never be guaranteed. Why? Because when it comes to strategy, it is something that is in the future. You wouldn't know whether you are able to actually reach that particular direction or not. All right. Why? Because it's full of uncertainty and risk. So basically, all right, because of that particular reason, okay, you need to understand what may and may not have impact on your organization. And that is crucial because not all business environment will actually have impact on your organization. Perhaps only certain type of external environment that may affect you. And because of that as well, okay, that's the reason why you have choices. All right. So these particular choices, okay, need to be made because it helps organization avoid strategies that leads to organization disaster or failure. Okay, an example between Toys R Us and versus Lego. What happened in this particular two company is that, okay, basically Toys R Us, I think most of you grew up with this, right? And then basically they are selling like physical toys, okay, which you can actually, you need to go there and buy those toys. And then eventually after that, okay, when the technology changes, okay, most customers or most children, okay, have turned into games and something that is online, something that is technological, rather than going to the shop and buy toys. So this is something that they did not see, and they did not realize it, that it affects them, and they actually came up with a strategy that doesn't work. And at the end of the day, Toys R Us actually got to, leave the industry, and they are now no longer in business. Okay, unlike Lego, what happened is that, okay, they realized after a while, okay, even though people do not play much with this particular, okay, physical thing of Lego, the bricks. So what happened is that, okay, they act quite fast in such that they start to incorporate modern technologies in the bricks, okay, where they start to have all these bricks, okay, with all the technology, and they are able to actually, come up with robots, things like that. And then at the end of the day, they also have all these online games on about Lego. So they are actually coping up with this particular change as well. And that's the reason why you see that Lego are still present until today. Okay, the next part will be under optimizing strategic decisions. You'll have like external environment, you have drivers of change, strategic drifts, you have macro environment, you have national environment, and then you have industry or sector environment, and then after that you have your scenario planning. All right, so I'll just give an overview of this, and I wouldn't go into detail. All right, like I mentioned to you earlier, this is just our recap, and this is a revision. Okay. So under this particular external environment, remember, external environment is actually your source of your threats and source of your opportunities. Okay, so why do I say that is a source of threat? Because external environment, okay, can be divided into two types. Okay, one is actually macro, one is actually my micro environment. And these particular broad factors, okay, under macro environment, which actually comes from like, which is actually outside your organization. Remember, external environment is any environment that is outside your organization. And anything that is outside your organization can be a source of threat or a source of opportunities. All right. And whether it is a threat or opportunities is all depending on what factors is actually affecting your organization. If you are talking about the macro environment or micro environment, okay, basically these are the factors that I will cover after this, okay, in detail down there, and the micro and micro environment. But basically, okay, these particular broad environments can be your drivers of change and can also contribute to strategic drifts. How and why? So external environment, okay, can be a drivers of change. Let's say if you find that, okay, some of the environmental factors, okay, cause threat to your organization, that's where that particular source of threat becomes a drivers for your change. That means you have to do something in your organization, you have to change something so that you are able to overcome those particular threat. Or it can also be an opportunity for you For example, all right, if let's say because of that particular external environmental change, all right, you find that there's an opportunity outside there which you or your organization can reap. That means that will be the starting point as a your drivers of change. That means you are going to move towards the direction where you can exploit that particular opportunities. At the same time, it can also be a strategic drifts. That means whatever strategy that you have earlier may no longer be meaningful or cannot be executed anymore because of that particular impact from the external environment. That means the strategy that you have formulated earlier may fail. All right, this is what we call as a strategic drift. Okay, you have formulated the strategy earlier, and because of certain environmental factors, you are not able to use that strategy anymore. All right, so that actually is called as a strategic drift. So when you have strategic drift, it's time for you to revisit your strategy, and you have to actually bring in new strategy. So you have to build up a new strategy. Whatever that cannot be used, okay, the strategy that cannot be used need to be casted out. So to help you analyze your macro environment, basically you can use your pastel, all right? Even if, let's say, you have pastel, doesn't mean that all the time that you must have all these particular 6 elements in your case study. Sometimes you might have only 3 or you might have only 4. Even though it's only 3 or 4, sometimes the factors under this particular pastel can be many in the case. Okay, that's where you need to actually bring that out from the case and mention how it actually affects the business. All right, the business can be the organization or it can be a company. All right, so basic is political, environmental, social, demographic, technology, economy, and legal. Okay, if let's say you were to use pastel, always remember anything related to policies, all right, which is not in the turn into an enactment or a law yet, that is actually policy, political, anything that is law related, okay, an act, so that one is considered as legal. All right, so basically you have your environmental factors, social, demographic, technology, and economy factors. Okay, and then you also have your national environment. Okay, that is your Porter's diamond. Okay, sometimes clustering and government policy. So basically, okay, this is an environment that can actually contribute to why certain organizations are actually successful in that particular country. All right, so you may want to find out what actually are the factors that contribute to their success, or perhaps what are the factors that may not contribute to their success. So basically you are able to use this particular model, but don't let yourself be tied up too much with this particular model. All right, sometimes when it comes to analyzing the external environment, you can actually, okay, use all this particular model to actually help you to answer the question. All right, you don't have to mention this is Porter's. Okay, 5 forces, this is Porter's diamond, this is pastel. There's no need for you to actually mention those. All right, it's enough for you to just mention that, okay, this particular external environment will be analyzed as follows. So just put your whatever headings that you have. It can be a mixture from all these particular three models. All right, as long as you can find it in the case, you can actually use it freely, because if you tie it too much with the model that you are using, sometimes you have your points but you don't know where to put it, and then end up you are confused and you don't have much answers to be put inside your booklet, so you will actually lose a lot of marks. Okay, let it be free so that you'll be able to actually write down whatever that you have found inside there that are related to external environment, which actually needs to be put inside your answer. Okay, maybe some you can use political, and another time that you can say factors, home demand, all right, and then maybe another one you can talk about a threat of new entrance. So basically these are the things that you can actually mix together. As long as you're talking about external environment, you can use any of the factors here. All right, so don't get yourself too tied up with each and every one of that. Okay, I hope you remember that just now. So you are asking again the difference between political and legal. Always remember, if it's a policy, it's political. All right. Okay, government policy, whatever is that, still a policy that one should be put under political. And when it comes to legal, make sure anything related to law, enactment, or act, that one will be actually under legal. All right. I hope that that's clear. Okay, another one that you may have under your external environment. Okay, basically this one is not to analyze the environment, but basically it's just to help you plan and assess the potential opportunities and threats. Okay, where you can actually develop a scenario, okay, on what are the key influence and the change drivers in the environment. Basically, okay, like I mentioned to you, this is not a forecast. Okay, this is where an organization actually learns and then try to prepare a contingency plan just in case that it happens. So basically you are trying to come out or develop, okay, how this particular environment, external environment, might actually affect the business. Okay, you will have like several scenarios that you may want to have in place that you want to develop. Okay, for example, technological change. Okay, what other kind of scenarios that may affect your organization? Perhaps you want to try to visualize, okay, if there's a technological change, this company may need to actually, buy more latest technology computers, or maybe they have to actually change the way that they manage their operations. So basically, these are some of the scenarios that you may gauge, okay, if there is a technological change. All right. So another part here will be the optimizing strategic decisions. Under here is strategic capabilities. All right. So what it means by strategic capabilities is adequacy and suitability of organization resources and competences, which determines their ability to survive and prosper. So basically, it's talking about your resources and competences, okay? And whether you are able to actually be able to have these particular resources and competences, okay, in the future. So this is what strategic capabilities is all about. And when it comes to strategic capabilities, okay, these are actually the resources and competences that helps your company to survive, or your organization to survive, or your business to survive and prosper, right? So it can be divided into resources and competences, and resources competences that can actually give you the competitive advantage. So to understand your resources and competences, okay, basically you need to know the threshold resources or competences. Okay, this is the minimum amount of resources and competences that you need to actually fulfill the requirement of your customers. You also have core competences, which is actually crucial, to meet the requirement of customers, and you may also have unique resources, okay, to meet the requirement of your customers. Basically, in order for you to have the competitive advantage, you need core competencies and unique resources. Okay, to understand further on your strategic capabilities, we may also look into strategic capability and sustainable competitive advantage, organizational knowledge, Porter's value chain, value network, and then SWOT analysis. Strategic capability and sustainable competitive advantage. All right. In order for your competencies or resources, okay, able to contribute to competitive advantage and making sure that that competitive advantage lasts, okay, is to ensure that your strategic capabilities do have values. They are rare, cannot be imitated, and in order for you to have that competitive advantage, you need to have organizational support. Without their support, you might not be able to generate that competitive advantage. All right. And then you must also make sure that your strategic capabilities are dynamic capabilities. It means that it can be developed and changed to meet the needs of the changing environment. So when it comes to values, make sure that these values means the values that are placed on resources and competences by a customer or organization. So basically that actually is your competitive advantage, all right? Can create a competitive advantage. And when you talk about rare, the unique resources that you have or the core competences that you have actually are not able to be obtained by your competitor. Only you have that particular unique resources and core competences. Your competitor will not be able to get access to it. So that means, okay, that's what we call as rare. And definitely, all right, your competitor are not able to imitate whatever that you have, okay? And in order for you to ensure that you have your resources are able to turn to be are able to contribute to the competitive advantage of the organization, it needs to have an organizational support. Why do it needs to get an organizational support? For example, all right, let's say, all right, you have a skilled worker, okay, skilled staff. Okay, for example, let's say you're talking about producing an art, okay, a drawing or an art, something that is unique, and your staff, let's say, are the only one who can actually draw that particular design freehand, not using any computer. All right, so that means he's very skillful, and because of that particular employee of yours, okay, you are able to sell a lot of the products, and company are able to actually earn a lot from there. But if let's say, okay, the company knows that, but let's say, okay, this particular employee deserves the best and needs to actually enhance his skill, and if let's say the organization cannot support him in terms of enhancing his skill, that means can't even send him for training, then this particular company or organization might not be able to actually sustain its competitive advantage. All right, because after a while, perhaps there might be other people, who are able to have the same kind of drawing, and if let's say your worker are not able to enhance his skills, then he will not be able to compete with the competitor. So basically, if no organizational support, okay, you will not be able to ensure that you have a sustainable competitive advantage. And same goes to your your competences and resources. It needs to be able to develop and change. All right. As the environment change, okay, let's say people no longer wants that kind of drawing. Okay, you must make sure that this particular worker of yours are able to draw something else that are required. Okay, by the change environment. Let's say when there is change in terms of social factors, okay, people don't like that old kind of drawing anymore. They like different kind of type of drawings. So you must make sure that your competences, just now your skilled workers, are able to meet that particular new demand. All right, and that's the reason why, okay, organizational support is important, and that's also the reason why your skilled workers, okay, your staff should actually enhance their skills and making sure that they are able to do many things. Another thing that is very actually important, all right, is organizational knowledge. So why is this organizational knowledge is important? Because with knowledge, only then you are able to create a sustainable competitive advantage. All right. And then basically, that's the reason why, okay, you need to actually create a new knowledge in order for you. Remember just now that we need resources and competences, more on competences that are dynamic. So only with the knowledge that they acquire, they are able to sustain this competitive advantage. That means they learn new things. When there are change in environment, they learn new things and they are able to change together with that particular environment, and they are able to produce better things that can actually meet the needs of the new environment. So only with knowledge that you are able to do that. When you learn, you are able to get new knowledge, new things, and you are able to produce more sophisticated things. All right. So under organizational knowledge, there are three important things: knowledge management, organizational learning, knowledge management technology. All right. So under knowledge management, okay, basically is to exploit existing knowledge and to create new knowledge so that it may be exploited. So what it means here is that, okay, for example, like talking about the artists just now, let's say if you are able to draw, okay, freely, make sure like, you gain new knowledge, okay, by using the computers so that you'll be able to draw on the computer as well, so that, okay, you are able to exploit what is needed, okay, by the environment. So because having drawing something freehand, okay, that means that's the masterpiece, and that one is going to be very expensive. But at the same time, you should be able to actually draw using the computer as well, or basically, print out whatever that you have, the original painting that you have, okay, if you are able to actually use the technology, you are able to reprint it. All right. So perhaps to cater for those who are not able to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for that particular original painting, and they still would want to have that painting in their house. So basically using this particular new technology, all right, when you gain that particular knowledge using the computers, you'll be able to produce that. So indirectly, you are able to satisfy certain type of customers. All right. Because some segment of customers requires original painting. They want original. They want you to draw and that's it. But some customers didn't want the original because it's too expensive. So they want it to the the printed painting. So perhaps, okay, the technology that you have, okay, not just having the free hand drawing, you also are able to draw, okay, using the computer, so that you'll be able to reprint whatever that you have actually drawn. Organizational learning is the organization that you are at, okay, where you're working at, okay. Basically, okay, that particular organization should actually foster culture and values of intuition, where people actually can discuss and do experiments, all right, and then perhaps, you know, go and gain more knowledge, further their studies, okay. Why? Because when it talks about having this particular organization that actually promotes the culture of learning, all right, they will be able to actually willing to back ideas, okay, even though they know that that particular ideas that you have may not be successful or may not be guaranteed, okay, but at least they are promoting you to actually, you know, be creative and more innovative. So they give you that particular room for you to make mistakes, all right, and then learn from your mistakes, because when you learn from your mistakes, right, you will be able to do and perform better, all right. So knowledge management technology is about organizing your data, okay, in a way that it makes it more accessible. Basically, okay, you store in whatever knowledge that your workers have already, you know, acquire. Perhaps they come up with like a module or standard operating procedures, where later on, if they leave the organization, at least you have the data on how they made that particular product, and you can actually learn from there and will be able to continue from there. All right, so basically you are storing that particular knowledge, okay. This is what knowledge management technology is all about. Okay, another part is the Potter's value chain. Okay, if you notice that, all right, I actually put the Potter's 5 forces next to it as well, all right, because there's always a relationship between this particular Potter's value chain together with this particular Potter's 5 forces, all right. So basically, the 5 components that you have are the primary activities, okay, and the supporting activities that supports the primary activities. And this particular primary activities, okay, you must always remember that if you can visualize, okay, that after the service, there's always there's a margin there. If you're talking about that particular model of the Potter's value chain, I'm sure that you have gone through your revision. Okay, this is just to recap. Okay, always remember that customers are willing to pay extra for something that they feel is worth giving that extra margin to you. That means they don't mind paying slightly more expensive, as long as the product that they have is of high quality. All right. So in order for you to actually serve the customer, making sure that they continuously will actually get that quality products, you must make sure that the whole process that you have, either its primary activities or your secondary activities, actually contributes to that quality of products. All right, only then it can actually create a competitive advantage. All right, so basically, if let's say your products, remember, if your customers are willing to pay some extra for your products, that means they have already created that particular value. All right, so customers have already created the values. So when it comes to this particular value creation, remember, okay, that it becomes your what? Your competitive advantage. So that means with the quality that you are able to give to your customer and they are willing to pay a high price for it, it means that, okay, if you want to tie it up with this particular Potter's 5 forces, right? Indirectly, your organization has already creates what? Barrier to entry. Whoever enters into this same particular industry will have a hard time to compete with you, because why? Because the products that you are providing to your customers has already, okay, creates that barrier to entry. And once you have created that as barrier to entry, it is also difficult for customer to substitute your product with its competitors, even though there are some other competitor producing the same product. Because of the value that you are able to give to them, they are not willing to substitute your product with them. So basically, okay, you don't have to worry about your threats of new entrants, and you don't have to worry about your threats of substitute. All right. Okay, another part here will be the value network. And then we're talking about relationships in value network. So basically, value network is actually an inter-organizational links and relationship that are necessary to create a product or a service. So remember, when you want to produce a product, okay, you need raw materials. Okay, this is just an example. You need raw materials. You need to process it and turn it into finished goods. But you require raw materials from a supplier. All right. So your supplier actually supplies you with that, and before your supplier are able to actually get that raw materials, that supplier will need to get it from another supplier, for example. All right. So basically, that is your inter-organizational links, and you need to secure that particular relationship, because this particular inter-organizational links and relationship is crucial for you to actually come up with your product or service. All right. So this particular value creating capability within the supply chain process actually enables you to create values. All right. So basically, okay, the relationship that you may find in this particular value network is that, remember the Potter's 5 forces just now, the elements of bargaining power can be exercised, okay, over your suppliers and customers in this case. Okay, for example, all right, let's say just now you are actually trying to actually produce something that your customers wants, and definitely you need a supply from your supplier. All right, so basically you can use your bargaining power. Okay, if let's say the resources that you want to get from them can be actually obtained from other suppliers as well, that's where you can actually exert your power to make sure that your supplier are able to actually give you the right price, so that you'll be able to actually make sure you can fulfill the demand of your customers of giving them the price that they want. All right, so this is actually the relationship in the value network. So you can't actually make business alone, so you need to have a good relationship with all the people around you. All right, so that you will continuously be able to produce product that makes values. So any questions so far? All right, let me see. Okay, you're asking, would we need to apply model using heading or in a simple identifying and explaining the points? All right. Basically, okay, models help you to actually put down your headings. You don't have to spell out what model that you are using, but basically it helps to structure your answer better. All right, but if let's say you can remember any of those particular headings by any of the models, but you know that those are your external environments, you can use whatever that you find in the case as your heading. All right, so as long as you are able to apply it, then it's good enough for you to actually get your marks. So you're talking about, okay, is it possible to use? Yes, we are using our strengths and weaknesses actually to assess our internal environment. Okay, can we actually mix our answer using pastel, Potter's 5 and SWOT for external environment? Be careful, all right? Yes, you can mix, but when you talk about external environment, make sure you just use OT instead of SW. Okay, SW is for you to assess the internal environment. All right, remember assessing your strategic capabilities, that's where you use your SW, right? And be careful as well, sometimes the question may not be asking external environment, they are asking on the environment where the company is actually competing. So that's where you may not want to have pastel there, you may only have for Potter's 5 or forces, or you may want to use Potter's diamond. All right. Can we use Tucker to assess company strategic decision? If you are asked to actually assess the company's ethical, you are asked to make an ethical decision making, yes, you can use Tucker. Let's say if the question were to ask you if is the company's okay making an ethical strategic decision. So there's a word ethics there, all right, ethical strategic decision. So that's where you may use Tucker. All right, let's continue with our SWOT analysis. Basically, the SWOT analysis is actually, I think this is the best model to actually analyze your both internal and external environment. All right. So for your external environment, on top of your pastel or your 5 forces or whatever it is, okay, you have actually opportunity and threat here. This particular opportunity and threats here actually these are the one, it comes from where? It comes from your pastel, and it comes from your Potter's 5 forces, and it comes from your diamond. All right. So what I can say is that your source of opportunity and threat is from your macro and micro environment. All right. Okay, so that's how they are related, your opportunity and threat. Sometimes, okay, let's say the question actually asks you more on the SWOT rather than on the pastel, whatever it is, but always remember they are always related, all right? Because as you explain about opportunity, all right, you may want to look into the external environment that actually provide you with the opportunity, okay? And you may also want to look into the external environment that you have that comes from macro and micro environment. Just remember your pastel on your 5 horses or your diamond that actually contribute to the threat. All right. So they are still related, even if, let's say, you're talking about opportunity and threat. That means as you explain about opportunity, you can also actually explain about this particular environment. Okay, as part of the explanation for opportunity. But you're not going to have it as your heading, but your heading will be your opportunity, and your source of opportunity will and threat will be coming from this. That should be okay. All right. So make sure you are able to use it, okay, correctly. And in analyzing the strengths and weaknesses, all right. So this is where you are going to look into what you have and what you don't have. All right. Inside your organization, within your organization is what you have and what you don't have. Opportunity and threat is what is outside the organization that may affect you. All right. Opportunity, something that affects you positively. Threat will be something that will affect you negatively. Okay, from that particular strategic capability and the competitive advantage that you have, okay, that's where you will be actually looking into your strategic choices. Okay, it means that you are trying to come up with an options, okay, within what you have, okay, before I forget, all right, within what you have. So basically, these are your means, okay, within what you have, okay, you are coming up with your, remember your intention is to create a competitive advantage with the options that you have. You are continue to have that particular competitive advantage. All right. So with this particular strength and weaknesses, okay, it's basically what you have and what you don't have. All right. Or you may have it, but you are lacking in it. That can also be strength and that can also be weaknesses. Something that you are good at, something that you have, something that okay, something that is strong for, what do I say? Okay, something that's good for your organization. Okay, something that can actually help you to perform. But make sure these are something that you look from inside the organization. All right, this one you look from the outside the organization. Always remember that, because sometimes students always ask me how to differentiate between strength and opportunity. Always remember, strength is something within your organization, right? Something that you already have. All right. This one you don't have, but you would. Opportunity is something that you don't have, but you would like to have. Weaknesses is something that you have, but you are not good at it. All right. But threat is something that is not good, okay, that may affect your company. All right. That comes from outside. All right. Weakness is something you are not good at. That is weaknesses. This one is something that is not good, that comes from outside the organization, that can affect your organization. That's what threat is. By understanding those particular SWOT analysis, okay, that's where you are able to know your position. All right, that's what we call as a strategic positioning. All right, so the purpose of strategic positioning is for you to actually come up with an option, okay, so that you will be able to continuously have a competitive advantage, and an option that enables you to move towards your strategic directions. And there are several types of options that you may have. All right. Okay, you may go for Porter's generic strategies like cost leadership, okay, differentiation, focus cost leadership and focus differentiation, all right? And then you may want to go for sustainable competitive advantage. Maybe perhaps your choice will be what? Looking only at the marketing mix. Okay, your strategic choice is looking into this particular 7Ps, your products, your price, things like that. All right. So you may want to also look into how you're going to manage your activities. All right. Okay, by looking into the portfolios that you have. Okay, out of the products that you have. Okay, which particular product that actually makes money for you, which one is not, which one is has got the potential. So you're trying to manage your activities. So perhaps that's one of your strategy, is to manage those particular activities. So any of the products that you think do have potential to grow, that's where you are going to put more resources there. So for the products that you feel that is actually dying off, declining, that's where you may want to actually be prepared to actually bring it out of the business, but you have to be very careful as well. All right. The reason being, okay, if that's the strategy of yours, okay, then you may need to look into some ethical concerns. Why I'm talking about this, because in the previous exam, okay, you are used to like so many types of strategies that are actually expand, having new products, new things like that. But last round in the March 2019 exam, all right, the strategy was slightly different. All right, instead of like having an expansion into another country, what happened is that, okay, because most of your specimens is about acquisition, expanding, things like that. All right. So what I want you to have in mind is that it can be the opposite. All right, not necessarily that, okay, it has to be an acquisition. Not necessarily that it has, do you have to make new products or you have to enter into new market. All right, so it can be the other way around. So what happened last round was that, okay, the strategy was to withdraw from the market. Instead of penetrating into the new market, they have to withdraw from the market. And then at the same time, they are supposed not opening another branch or outlet, but they are supposed to be closing down the outlet. All right. So the strategy is totally opposite. But remember, the concept of strategy will still be the same. All right. It's either your strategy is to generate more revenues or to save your company from losing. Remember, the objective of a strategy is what? To make sure that you sustain, you continue to be in business. Even if like, you have many branches before this, if it just doesn't work, you may have to close your branches and just maintain only one particular business of yours with just one particular, premise. Then that's going to be your strategy. That means your strategy is actually to reduce the amount of losses that you incur and making sure that you will be able to grow after you have already downsizing. All right. So let's like what is happening here. Okay, for example, in Malaysia here, all right, we have like giant hypermarkets. So initially, giant hypermarkets do have like, category of hypermarkets, supermarkets, and then they also have outlets, small outlets of giants. So what they did was that, okay, they are not able to cope with so many outlets because the economy is not that good. So they downsized by closing down the outlets, but they still continue to make money in such that, all right, they're closing down the outlets that doesn't make money, all right. So what they want is to make sure that they continue to be in business. So at the moment, they still are able to maintain some of their hypermarkets in the areas where they have more customers, right? So strategies can be anything. This is something that you really have to keep in your mind, that no matter what strategy that they have, the concept will still be the same, okay? making sure that you continue to be in business, whether you are going to be big, you are going to be small. It's the intention is to continue to be in business, is not to actually go bankrupt. All right, so that's the purpose of a strategy. All right, so make sure that you are not affected by the unexpected. All right, because this is a professional exam, you must make sure that you expect the unexpected, because if you expect the unexpected, it means that you are mentally prepared to face whatever that is being asked in the requirement, okay, for you to do, and you'll be able to think calmly. All right, so that you'll be able to actually get your ideas, because if you panic, you will not be able to think. Okay, so despite all these strategies that we have here, all right, market penetration, product development, remember, okay, it can be like opposite. So instead of penetrating, like what happened previously, it's like withdrawing from the market. All right, so anything like this can actually happen. So you have like diversity, okay, of products and markets. That's where you have diversifications, all right? And you have methods of development. Sometimes that you may want to expand fast, you acquire another company, or you merge with another better company, bigger company, all right? So when it comes to merging and acquisitions, okay, anything can happen. If you're a small company, you can actually merge yourself with a bigger company, or you can also, if you are a bigger company, you can merge yourself with a smaller company. All right, same goes to acquisition. All right, so it can be both ways. So once you have already actually come up with your choices, okay, your options, that means the kind of strategy that you want to have, say, you will not be coming up with only one strategy, unless some companies, okay, this is another thing. Let's say you have like limited strength and with a lot of weaknesses. So sometimes you have to live within your means. That's the only strength that you have. And you are not able to come up with any other options except for one option of strategy. You have no choice but to pursue with that particular strategy. Okay, sometimes this thing may happen as well. All right, so concept is still the same. All right, so it's just that if you have only one strategy, it's either you want to execute it now, or you want to wait until later. So these are the things that you may want to consider. But if you have many options, that's where you need to decide which choices fits your organization by using perhaps the SAF model. All right, suitability, acceptability, and feasibility. So if you are to use this particular model, all right, you must make sure that if you are looking into suitability, make sure that it fits the external environment, the drivers of change from your external environment, all right? And then if you're talking about acceptability, so you're looking from the aspect of financial returns and then risk, all right? So if you're looking actually from the feasibility part, you are supposed to be looking at your resources. Acceptability is from your stakeholders, all right? Financial returns, and then the acceptance of risk by your stakeholders, all right? And then feasibility will be your resources, right? Whether you have enough resources to pursue with that particular organic growth, mergers or acquisition, or whether you have enough resources for you to pursue into your diversification, whether you have enough resources for you to go into your penetration or product development or whatever that you have. So whether you have enough resources for you to manage your activities, and whether you have enough resources for you to pursue with your marketing mix strategy. So it's all depending on your resources. Okay. One thing that I want to alert you is that, okay, if let's say your company is company A, you want to acquire company B. So for you to assess whether you are going to have financial returns or not from your company, you are A, company B, okay. So that I'm the one who's going to be confused. Then, okay, let's say you're company A, you are acquiring B. All right. Okay, just put it down. Okay. Company A acquire company B. Okay, let's say company A, you acquire company B, and if in the exhibits, for example, they gave you the financial statements for A in the exhibits, all right, what you have is your exhibits. For example, okay, you have financial statement of A. Are you going to use the financial statement of A, okay, for acceptability or for feasibility? If let's say you are A, you acquire B, so if the exhibits give you financial statement of A, you will use financial statement of A to actually assess your feasibility. All right? That means this is for feasibility. But let's say exhibits gives you financial statement of B. Then you are going to use it for acceptability. Oh dear. All right, so I hope you can see that. Okay. So if exhibits actually, okay, this is the scenario, company A acquire company B. Let's say if you find that in the exhibits that you have financial statement of B, that means you are going to use that particular financial statement for you to actually, okay, evaluate the financial returns and risk for this one under acceptability. And then if let's say it's the financial statement of A, then you use it for feasibility. And if you have both, then you should know which one you're going to use for which. All right. So make sure, right, the company that you acquire is for acceptability and your own company financial statement is feasibility. That means you're looking at your financial position. All right. Whether you have enough resources for you to acquire company B. All right, I hope that that explains. Okay, so basically, optimizing strategic decision is an organization ability to understand its own resources, capabilities, and competences, which can be exploited to achieve success using tools that can help leaders make strategic choices about the long-term direction and scope of their organizations, which may help future organizations to survive in a dynamic environment. All right, so basically this is what your optimizing strategic decision is all about. So if you have any question, you can ask questions. We have like about 13 minutes left, I think. Yeah. Any question? You want me to share question or withdrawal? I need to find a question with withdrawal so far from our specimens. All right. Okay. Perhaps I may get it from others. All right. So far from the specimens and from the past years that we have, okay, I think March 2019 was actually the first time that they are producing a questions with a strategy that's totally different from those particular specimens. So I think we will have further discussions on that later. All right. All right. Okay. How can you ask question to the tutor? I think you can ask questions here, right? Under questions, you can type the questions. All right. Or later, perhaps if you want to ask me personally, okay, you can WhatsApp me. You are asking how to check own question after writing because answers wording different from our response. Okay. That's the reason why, okay, sometimes, okay, as a student, you have your ideas, you have your points, okay, you answer the questions, and then you use your own words, and then suddenly that you find, okay, when you look at the suggested solutions, it's like totally different from what you have written. Okay, don't worry. All right, yours might not be wrong. All right, yours might not be wrong. That's the reason why it's good if you are able to go to someone who is knowledgeable to have a look at your write-up to see whether whatever that you have written actually meet the requirement of the question or not. All right, so that is very crucial. Okay, if you have to practice, definitely whatever that you have practiced, I know you have practiced, you use your own words, and sometimes when you look at the suggested solution, you become frustrated. You know why? Okay, none of your answers are actually inside there. But don't worry. When you talk about suggested solutions, okay, suggested solutions are perfect answers. Okay, so that's not the kind of answers that you will produce in your exam. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay, examiners will be looking at your answer and they're going to mark based on whatever that you have written. So if you want to build your confidence, I think it's good if you're able to ask someone to actually look at your answer and say whether what you have done is actually correct or not. Okay. For acceptability, is it necessary to use financial information? Can we just use stakeholder as our answer? Yes, you can. Not necessarily that all the time that it will be financial information. They might give you other things, right? So stakeholders acceptance, things like that. Okay, the tolerance to risk. Okay, so these are the things that you can actually use for the acceptability. All right. Remember the risk tolerance, risk appetite. So these are the things that you can also use to assess your acceptability of your risk. Could you explain more on suitability? Okay. When it comes to suitability, okay, remember that when you did your strategic positioning, all right, you are looking into the drivers of change, all right, and then when it comes to what it means by the drivers of change is that something that happens that triggers from the external environment that requires you to change, and you want to know whether the strategy or the options, okay, the strategic options that you have, the many choices that you have, okay, whether, okay, those particular options are able to actually address that particular drivers of change. Okay, for example, if let's say the technological change, okay, that's happening outside there, okay, for example, okay, now let's say now your company is actually not doing any business, okay, or do business, but it's actually having a physical store instead of online, for example, all right. And with the external environment change, okay, people start to embark into online business, okay. Out of your strategic choices, if you're talking about suitability of those particular choices, all right, you may is e-business, for example, okay, let's say if you want to penetrate into a new market, would actually penetrating into new market, okay, be suitable for you to address the issue that triggers by that particular technological change, that is the internet and online. If let's say it can, then it is suitable. If it can't, then it is not suitable. All right. So make sure, okay, when you look into suitability, it goes back to the what triggers the change, the drivers of change that comes from the external environment. All right. So if let's say you find that okay, by your one of your strategic options is actually suitable to meet that particular change. For example, let's say one of your option is say e-business. All right, you decided to embark into e-commerce, for example. All right, which entitles you to actually, which requires you to have all this internet, things like that. So if you think that particular strategy helps you to address the external environment just now where people are now moving towards online business, then that particular option is suitable. All right. So if you want to analyze your suitability, it will always go back to your external environment. All right. Whatever external environment that affect your business, will the strategy, okay, able to counter or overcome that particular impact from the external environment? If it yes, then it is suitable. All right. Okay, if you have personal requests, I think you should actually personally WhatsApp me. All right. Suitability, can I relate it with risk? You can, but basically to answer more towards the acceptability of risk, all right, that one is under acceptability, because uh, because I don't know how you want to actually look at risk unless you can tell me further on how you want to look at the risk. It can to generally, I cannot just simply answer whether it can relate to risk. I need to see how it is, okay, what kind of questions that you really want me to answer in terms of suitability and risk here, right? So basically, if you are asking me, all strategies are subject to risk, all right? But if you are looking risk from the impact, the impact of the external environment, yes, it can be tied up with that particular suitability. All right. How do you write an answer without stating the model you are using? For example, just mention that's your external environment. All right, you are analyzing the internal and external environment. Why is it internal and external? Because you are putting SWOT here. All right. If you're putting only OT and pastel, then you are analyzing, your heading should be external environment. So if let's say you're using both SWOT and pastel, that means you are analyzing internal and external environment. So make sure you break your heading into these two types. All right. So if you are analyzing the external environment, make sure you use only pastel and OT. And if you're analyzing internal environment, then you should be using only SW, strength and weaknesses. Oh, definitely for SAF, you need to have your evidence, all right? Okay, that means you need to have support from your analysis or from your case. Whatever it is, it has to be tied up with the case, okay? For SBL, it has to be tied up with the case. And another thing is that, okay, some who may not be using the SAF to evaluate the strategic options, you may also want to look into the cost and benefit analysis. All right, you may use that as well. Okay, for example, all right, if you want to actually make some assumptions, okay, some relevant business assumptions. Okay, first thing is you should prioritize the information that you have in the case first. Unless that you have to make relevant business assumptions, then you may make that particular relevant business assumptions. All right? Okay. So any further questions? All right, if you don't have any further question for tomorrow, or since we have done with this, what I'll do is that I'll be going through the specimen number 1, and then for us to actually identify first, all right, what are the syllabus area being asked in that particular questions. Then what I will do is that, okay, we will be answering that particular question as well. All right, so this time, how I'm going to address the questions will be, okay, it's going to be like piecemeal. I'm not going to like go through, unless it's day 5, then we'll go through the December 2018 question altogether. All right. But for topical, that's why I put there topical, because I'm going to cover it, okay, based on the topics that we have already covered tonight. All right, so if you don't have, I think that's all for tonight. Hopefully to see all of you again tomorrow. Okay, we will continue tomorrow. All right, see you tomorrow then.